Good morning. It was 10 days ago that President Trump signed an executive order to shut down the U.S. Department of Education. The president says states and local communities should have authority over education, not the feds. So what would this actually look like here in Connecticut? Joining me to give some insight is Fran Rabinowitz. She's the executive director of the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Eric.
I told you just before we started this past week, Congressman John Larson posted to social media that if this goes forward, Connecticut alone could lose $155 million federal dollars. And he says 2,300 teachers. That's like 5% of Connecticut's teachers. That's according to John Larson. What are your reactions to hearing those kind of numbers?
Of course, I'm appalled, but I also have to say, Eric, that I'm not surprised. I've seen this coming. I've seen it in the making. Once you start to dismantle a Department of Education in the United States, you're telling us that you don't place a priority on public education in the United States. And it just follows that you're going to cut funding, and anyone who thought that funding wouldn't be cut is just naive.
The premise sounds good, right? Local control, and certainly I see stories about things that are being taught in other states around the country that I'm certainly glad are not taught to my son.
Absolutely.
But yet, there is an impact. So how do you weigh that? Local control sounds great, but there's also things that the Department of Education does. So on behalf of the superintendents, where's the balance?
Well, I think there is a tremendous balance. Absolutely, Connecticut decides their own curriculum, thank goodness. We decide on our state standards and what is going to be taught to children. However, a few weeks ago, when all of the personnel were let go for the research arm of the department, that was incredibly upsetting, because we look to them for best practices because they have been and done extensive research. So that was number one. Number two, funding is going to be crucial. John Larson saying that more than 2,300 jobs being lost is real. I mean, those are teacher jobs. I've heard that the IDEA, which is our special ed for our students with disabilities, is being dismantled, is being sent over to the Department of Health under Robert Kennedy. I'm not sure what Robert Kennedy and the Department of Health, where their expertise is in autism or emotionally disabled. All of those pieces were very important parts of the Department of Education. It isn't just funding, although the funding is incredibly important to us. And once you start to chip away at $150 million, honestly, how are we going to pick that up? Earlier today, there was $150 million cut from the Department of Public Health. No newborn screenings were affected. Vaccinations were affected. We teach the whole child. That is going to affect our children as well.
When you talk about it just from a practical standpoint, you also have a lot of your superintendent members have already set their budgets for the upcoming school year that doesn't even start until September. So when those budgets have been set, maybe some tough decisions have already been made in places, and then to have this kind of a change coming from Washington, how do you adapt to that? How do you shift?
It will be devastating. It will be certainly devastating on our most challenged districts, but it will be devastating across the board, because Title I, yes, is for our students in poverty, but IDEA is for all students, and superintendents depend upon those budgets. This was a very difficult budget year. We're coming off of the end of ARPA and ESSER funding, so now superintendents have already cut back staff in many, many districts. And staff is that's the foundation, that's everything. And they've been cut back already, and now you're going to look at more cuts, and you're going to look at devastating cuts very close to the opening of the school year.
One thing that the Trump administration has been saying repeatedly is that they're going to get rid of the department, but not the money. They're going to funnel it other ways. Do you take them at their word on that?
No, I don't. I don't take them at their word. I can be very honest on that and transparent. I mean, obviously, they just cut $150 million. They said that Department of Public Health would get their dollars too. They cut it. Imagine cutting newborn screening and vaccinations. I don't think that they will stop at that. I think they will cut our Title I funding. I think they will cut our special ed funding. They'll cut our funding that we use to train teachers, to recruit teachers. All of that will be cut.
All right, so what's your, if a superintendent calls up and says, you know, Fran, listen, I'm trying to figure out how to adapt to this. Let's start with that piece. What are you telling the members at this point of your association?
At this point in time, I am, I hate to be a bearer of doom, but I am telling the members that they need to get ready for these cuts, and I have been telling them that. I've been telling the state people, state legislators, you know, you've got to come up with the money for IDEA, for our special ed students, for our education cost-sharing money. And I'm telling superintendents that they have to plan that these cuts may take place. And I'm also saying we have to gear up for the mid-year elections because we've got to change this. Public schools are the cornerstone of our democracy, and destroying a Department of Education, even if the Senate maintains the department, they're dismantling the department. So even if in name they are not able to get rid of it, they are in essence destroying it.
Do you have a message for parents? You know, it's drastic, the things that you're saying here this morning. What's your message for parents who might be concerned, Fran?
My message for parents is we all know that public education is the cornerstone for us. It is incredibly important. If it is important to you, you've got to act. You've got to understand that this is what is happening. Do not believe the rhetoric of the Trump administration that they're just making it, you know, getting rid of bureaucracy. They're getting rid of funding, and they will erode public schools. They need to come out and act. They need to make their voices heard. We're a strong group when we work together, and they need to let the administration know, as well as their local legislators know, this is not acceptable.
Only a few seconds left, but there are for sure people listening this morning who say, President Trump said he was going to do this, and I voted for him because of it. I want the bureaucracy cut. I want the cost savings. What is your argument to those folks on why they're wrong?
Yeah, and I would say to them, yes, he said he would do it, but I'm not sure that the people that said, yes, I want that done, realize that it's going to impact them and their neighborhood school and their children in their communities. Sometimes when we talk about bureaucracy, it's out there. It's not going to impact me directly. This will impact all of us directly.
All right. Well, something of a dire warning from Fran this morning. Fran Rabinowitz, we appreciate you being here as always and giving us that perspective. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Eric.